Patient waiting in the green room, my friend Dr. Phil Meyers at DC. Dr. Meyers is a chiropractic physician living and working in my hometown, St. Louis, Missouri. The way to get started for optimal health and well-being is to make that first phone call for that first private no-charge consultation. Call his office, get it set up. Call the office at area code 314-878-6868. Good morning, doctor.
Good morning, John. How are you this morning?
Oh, looking forward to another beautiful winter day here in south central Missouri. How about yourself, sir?
I know. It's nice to come out at 47 degrees, a little bit of drizzle, and it felt good to take a deep breath in.
Absolutely. Well, we've had some interesting conversations these past seveul weeks. To say the least. People are getting a lot out of them. They're looking forward to them. And I know we have the John Moore Show has a lot of callers in California, don't we?
Yeah, we get a lot. We got people from California, from PA, British Columbia areas, Texas. So yeah, we get people from all over in Missouri itself. A lot of people from around the country calling in and calling over here too.
Outstanding. Well, that said, what direction you want to go this morning, sir?
Well, it's so multifaceted. Here's the thing. I always get the question, because I do such unique work with structural work on the body, organ work on the organs, biochemistry with food and nutrition, neurology through neuroscience, and through psychology through consciousness work and belief structures. And you don't get an office or a practitioner that does a lot of that work all in one collective way. And so I have a lot of people ask me, like, well, who treats you? Like, I'll be working on people, and they'll just look at me like, okay, I see what you've been doing for me, but who helps you with all this?
Right.
And honestly, I have a lot of help. I do a lot of it myself. A lot of this work, when you understand the system, it's really easy to do this stuff on yourself. And that's one of the biggest things that I teach others to do, is to take that personal responsibility for their own life, that they created the life that led them to where they are now, and that they have the ability to change their life out of where they are and to where they want to go. And all I am in their life is a catalyst to help help open up the energy patterns that have been laid dormant in their body and that have or been suppressed in their body. And when those energies are suppressed and or laid dormant in tissues, they create pain. They create disharmony at the tissue level, and you get degeneration at that tissue level. It fatigues out. It doesn't function as well. It won't communicate with all the other parts of the body. And so when we change that energy, when we realize, oh my God, I've been suppressing this or holding this in, the tissue lets go. And then it starts vibrating at a different frequency and communicating at a greater level, so that vibrant health and truth and love and connection start radiating through the body. And it doesn't matter if you're a 5-year-old baby or 5-day-old baby or a 75-year-old man. it's energy's energy. And when you tap into the truth and the love of the energy within you, your body and your mind and your psyche and your spirit and your psychology radiate through. And so I have people that help me through this. I have coaches, and I have people that I read and that I work through. And then when the right person comes through and they are at the right place for their level of healing, I introduce them to those things, and they move on to that level. And so it's really funny when people ask me that question. It's like, who takes care of you? Like, well, I take care of me, for one, and so should you. You should be taking care of you. And how you got to this place is you haven't.
Right. Exactly. Absolutely. And that's a tough reality for people to accept, isn't it, Doctor?
It is. Because a lot of times we work at, and me included, work at the intellectual level. If I just know, if I can spout out all that information from that said textbook and understand it at an intellectual level, or sound smart, or be smart about it, but not own the energy of it and how it works in my life, then it stays stuck at a consciousness level that's less than healing. It might have gotten you out of fatigue. It might have sparked a light bulb in your brain, but it's less than healing. And to then take it, so a lot of people come here. I had a lady, she came to me, she has tremors in her arms, and she is talk about the epitome of an amazing diet. I mean, she's a dietitian. She knows what she's talking about. She's gluten-free, dairy-free, hormone-free. I mean, as best as you can do on this planet, she's there. And she's got all this stuff. And I started working on her, and we went through her history and her story. None of this stuff showed up that I'm going to talk about in there. And I'm working on her, and I'm feeling the energy patterns of the blockages in the muscles, because when the energy is blocked, when the system is retained, you have muscle tension, and you do have lack of range of motion in the body. So here's a cue for anybody out there. If you have a stiff joint, you have retained energy. You have a system in your body that you're suppressing, and that is being retained into your body, that you're not allowing yourself to see clearly. Period. Right. So I'm working on it. So people are like, well, how did you know? I'm like, well, because I'm working on this area of your body. I'm working through this reflex. It should do this, leading to this psychology and this biology and this biomechanical process. So laws of induction, I mean, you pretty much can figure it out. So I'm working on this thing. I'm like, again, this thing isn't moving. What happened in this area of your life? I'm like, did this happen? No. Did this happen? No. Were you greatly beaten or raped in any type of way? And when I said those words, it was like porcupine spines just flared up on her whole entire body.
Really?
Before she even said a single word, there was no words. When I said, had you been raped? And then I felt all that change. Then she's like, well, I think I was. Like, you think you were. Okay, well, tell me about this. And as we kind of got into the story, and what had happened to this poor lady is she had been abducted and held captive for a week or so. Maybe it was a month. She can't remember. This is how much she's blocked it out.
Right.
And raped repeatedly and kind of left for dead. And this happened when she was in her 20s or 30s, I believe, and she's about 60 now.
Right.
And so we started talking, and then I said, like, you know what, wait. Let's stop talking about this. We're going to move. How's your family? And as soon as I changed the subject, the porcupine spines died down.
Sure. Right.
And then I was able to generate movement again in her body. Now, what happened there? I was a trigger for the energy locked into her body that she suppressed. Now, did I create the porcupine spinal reaction in her? No. She did. It was a protective mechanism. And we all have that to some degree. So, and then the next visit she came in, and she's like, but Doc, I've worked through some of this. I'm like, intellectually, you betcha. It's now on your radar. You're now aware of it. But now you have to work on it at the feeling level and feel the energies that you've suppressed, that are lying dormant, that are so locked in, they're creating neurological deficits in your neurology, creating a tremor that won't go away. Oh, but here, look, you're already making subtle changes. On the Max Pulse machine that I test people with, she had like 15 or 20 arrhythmias in a 3-minute scan on her heart scan. After 2 adjustments, they're down to 3. So just the adjustment itself has freed up the locked-in suppressed energy fields to allow the potential for healing to come through. And so you can be smart and you can be know a textbook or know something at an intellectual level, but then owning it and working at it through the feeling level of energy, which is humanness, without fear, without hostility, without feeling threatened or feeling irritated, but through love and personal power. That's when the potential for healing really comes through. So when people say, Doc, who works on you? Well, I work on me. And I have people to help me work on me. Just like I'm helping you work on you.
Right. Exactly. That is exactly what we do. Absolutely. Well, the process is simple on one hand, but it's not easy, is it?
No, it takes work.
That's right.
I mean, First off, personal responsibility. You can't blame anybody else. I haven't even gotten to this with this lady yet, but she will never be able to blame her captor for her issues. You have to get to the place where you own the energy. You take personal responsibility for the reality that you created in your life. Now that was a simple statement, but that takes a lot of work. And half the audience on the screen just got a chill down their spine and a resistant recoil.
Right. Right.
Because it's that hard. And now you all can take a breath. And how many of you realize you were holding your breath?
Yes, absolutely. Here's our break, Doctor.
So, does that make a lot of sense?
It does, absolutely. Yes.
And, okay, so here's the cool part that I think is just, I think it's awesome. And is our body, our physical, bony, neurological, muscular structure, that structure is designed to be an antenna to capture the energy of truth and love that surrounds us and is within us. Now, that was a mouthful, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And so what do I mean by that? When you look at, so we talked about already early in the show that when you have retained energy and suppressed energy fields, it creates tension in the muscles. That tension in the muscle, what's it going to do? It's going to pull on the bony structures and put them into an alignment and into a posture and position that shows you, literally shows you, what energy and suppression and frequency the body is working in. And so when you see a high hip, a short leg, a rotation of a shoulder, a hunched over back, a jutted out chin, an anterior head carriage, a tilted neck to the right, so one ear is shorter, one ear is lower than the other, a high shoulder, a frown on the face, or in a wrinkle within the continual contraction of a muscle, emotional feeling. You can see in a person where the energy has been locked in.
Right. Right.
And so all of that shows you from an energetic standpoint. I'm very clear on that. From an energetic standpoint, how far off you are of center. Think of that bony structure now as an antenna, and the rest of your body as a projector screen on the TV to read the signals of channel 2. And now that your structure is off center, your antenna is not at a right angle, you're not getting a clear picture of the truth and love that surrounds you, is within you, that gives you the potential for ultimate healing. So I, as a chiropractor, my first thing to do is to get your body and mind and the energies to align themselves in a more centralized positionality so that your energy has the ability to capture the energy that gives you the potential to heal.
Fascinating information, Doctor. We got a caller on hold. We got Clyde in Georgia. Good morning, Clyde.
Hi, this is Clyde. My question to Dr. Meyers. I'm a 68-year-old. Have been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease for a couple of years, and I heard Dr. Meyers say something about
Hold that thought. We'll get to your question after the break, Clyde. Dr. Phil Meyers, make that first phone call, get that consultation set up. Call his office at 314-878-6868. Clyde, before the break, you were going to ask some questions. Let's go ahead and get back to your question, Clyde.
Thank you. I heard Dr. Meyers talk about Parkinson's the other day. He mentioned something about acetylcholine and the proper balance with dopamine, and something about the vagus nerve and systemic tonic neck reflex. Anyway, I was wondering.
Good memory.
Yes, sir. I was wondering if you could explain that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Parkinson's is a multifaceted issue. There's an energy component within certain functional meridian lines within acupuncture. It's not just like what most people think of is lack of dopamine in the substantia nigra of the brain creating your issues. If it was just that, then giving a person L-Dopa, they'd be cured.
Okay.
It would just be that simple. But Parkinson's is a very multifaceted issue with how the brain and its movement capacities work. So acetylcholine, so it's a vagus nerve. Let's start with that. So the vagus nerve is a nerve that comes right out of your brainstem and controls all your digestive function and 80% of sensory function, so how your body feels. So when you hit your foot on the floor, and that sends a reflex up to your body so you can then take another step forward in a proper heel strike, plantar, and then toe-off fashion, or so you don't drag your leg, which is a very common thing with Parkinson's, or that shuffle gait because they don't have enough feedback to take a wide gait. They have to take a short gait. That feedback loop is diminished big time. So getting the vagus nerve through that sensory integration working right is huge with Parkinson's. And then that movement requires a swing of the body. So as you swing your leg and you swing your arms, your neck will move to the left and to the right. That's that systemic tonic neck reflex. That is all controlled by dopamine. And so if dopamine is imbalanced within the body, which is highly imbalanced in Parkinsonian issues, your neck almost stays centralized. So your body won't move the shoulders. It can't, because then you'd be twisting the neck, and the body protection mechanisms won't allow that. So it'll just create no movement in the shoulders, which then creates no movement in the hips, which then lacks the swing movement of the body. So you get even more lack of movement, more shuffling gait, and more lethargic type posture in the body. So these neurotransmitters that work through these particular reflexes that all come from brainstem stimulation and digestive gut stimulation are essential for the recovery and the potential to reverse Parkinsonian disease processes. So by working on those, that's how you do it.
Well, I've been trying to do that with the upper cervical chiropractic care. I do that.
Good.
And but I still have that impaired gait and.
So the upper cervical, I do upper cervical, so I can say this without a shadow of a doubt. Upper cervical doesn't always fix the reflexive actions of the systemic tonic neck reflex and or the vagal nerve's tone through the flexion and extension movements of gait orientation. It just doesn't. That requires a utilization of cranial moves on the skull and blocking moves of the pelvis to stimulate that movement pattern. And then when you open, then you need to open up the diaphragm in a particular way with movement of breath to activate that reflexive action, which then activates the actual neurotransmitter function that works through the upper cervical opening at the brainstem level. That's why you're only seeing mediocre results, because the upper cervical adjustment opens up the pathway potential, but it does not activate the movements of those reflexes. That's why I do both. I do upper cervical and cranial adjustments and pelvic adjustments and visceral adjustments, because one technique only hits a certain part. That's like saying to a surgeon saying, "Well, okay, now we're gonna go in. We're gonna cut you open." So they cut you open, and then they open you up, and they look at your heart, and they're like, "Okay, we've now opened up the pathway to the heart," but then they don't do anything to it, and then they just sew you back up. That's kind of, from an analogy standpoint, you're getting good care, but for what you need, it's not enough. Oh. And then, honestly, if you're not addressing the digestive issues through the gut, you're also not hitting the part as well. Because what happens with the digestive in the gut, it's not about what supplement do I take, but when you have vagal nerve issues and dopamine issues, you have your body has a very inflamed digestive tract, which then creates imbalances in dopamine and lack of sensory input of what your body truly needs from the acetylcholine standpoint, because that vagus nerve isn't getting proper information, because the digestion from the food is destroying the gut, and all that information is toxic from flatulence and fermentation and leaky gut and toxins of metals, bacteria, and funguses. That happens from the gluten and the GMO stuff, which we've talked ad nauseum on this show about. So you have to address all those functions, especially with Parkinson's. It's funny that you call about Parkinson's. I'm actually going to be doing 2 talks on Parkinson's at the end of the month and beginning of next month to the Parkinsonian groups here in St. Louis on how they can start changing their circumstance so that they can then start living the potential for more optimal healing in their world. And this is exactly what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, I wish I could be there for that, but
well, you're getting it on the show. I mean, I'm just talking to what I'm talking to you now. That's going to be the same talk, so you're hearing it already.
Yeah.
But for you in your area, either you need to travel up here, or you need to get a team, like I talked about in the beginning of the show. Who takes care of you, Dr. Phil? I do, and my team helps me take care of myself. You're already getting the upper cervical care. You need to find someone that does the cranial work. You need to get involved in movement exercises like Qigong or Tai Chi that are designed to work through those reflexes. If you can't do the upper cervical or the cranial work that does it. You need to be working on nutrition. Everything that we've talked about in the shows. about nutrition, about how that works through all the genes and the MTHFR and blah, blah, blah. All that stuff. Listen to the archives of the John Moore Show for those, because it's just too much on this show. But that's where you need to start going if you really want to see the results. And I know you do. That's why you're on the show talking and asking questions. But this is your answer. Those are your steps, and you must take them. It's not just L-Dopa. It's not just the psychotropic drugs that they're giving you to help with the anxiety and the heart issues and the lack of brain stimulation and the adrenal exhaustion that comes along with Parkinson's. It's this multifaceted connection that has to be addressed, and if it's not addressed, you're only going to go so far.
Okay, can you explain more what you mean about cranial adjustment?
Yeah. So, so for example, let's just take it really simple. When you breathe in, when any human being breathes in, the cranial bones around the skull open up. Just like when you breathe in, you see your chest expand, and you feel your lower belly expand, you feel your pelvis expand. Well, your cranium expands. When you breathe out, what do you feel your chest do? It goes in, right? Your abdominal goes in, your pelvic bowl closes up, but also your cranium closes up. And so that's just simple breathing in, breathing out. Now the locked-in energies that create the locked muscles create locking of those cranial bones to not open or close according to that movement of breath. So to open up the systemic tonic neck reflex, the vagal nerve reflex, the steppage plantar and heel strike reflexes, they're all related to that cranial sacral breath opening and closing mechanism. And so those need to be opened and closed properly so that the reflexes that stimulate the neurotransmitters that activate the brain be opened and functioned. That's what I mean by cranial sacral.
Oh, okay. So that's something that I have to be trained to do? Or?
No, well, you need to first get it open by a trained practitioner or do some really good breathing work. Mantak Chia, in his Qigong work, does a phenomenal job of teaching, and his Iron Shirt Qigong does a phenomenal job of teaching a human being how to do that. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of work, but that's the process of opening up the cranial sacral spinal flow gate.
Okay, I'll investigate that.
Okay. Well, thank you, Clyde. We appreciate your call.
Thank you, Clyde, for calling. That was awesome.
Time.
Next we go to Rick in Missouri. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Doc. How's everything going?
Fantastic. How are you, Rick?
Oh, pretty good. I just wanted to say something about the beginning of the show, and I am, of course, not qualified to speak on behalf of the doc, but it was interesting to me. I'm a patient, so it was interesting to me that during an adjustment, the doc asked me a question. He challenged some of my belief systems, which I've spent a lifetime creating, really as like we all do. And the question might have had some spiritual overtones, and I almost jumped off the table. And my first reaction was, are we just having a conversation, or did we turn the corner, or something? And then I realized, and I felt kind of obtuse about it. You can't, I guess, really repair the body without addressing the mind, and you don't. If you're stuck with Western or allopathic medicine, you're not going to get that. You go to the doctor, they address one of your symptoms, they give you a pill for it and send you on your way, and there's never any discussion about how you got in that condition. So what I think if I'm, and here I feel ridiculous speaking on behalf of the doctor, but if I'm reminded of that scene in The Matrix where Neo and Morpheus are talking, and Neo says to Morpheus, "You mean if you die in the Matrix, you die here?" And Morpheus says, "Well, the body can't live without the mind." And I think, it's a rare thing from my point of view, and I've been around for a while, that anybody is willing to address your body and your mind at the same time. But I think if you want to get well, you're going to have to do that. And I will say this about that: certainly the weakest link in this entire healing process would be Doc is dragging me along as fast as he can drag me along, and really most of the work is mine to do, and there's the challenge. But anyway, I just wanted to say that. Thanks a bunch.
Okay. Well, thank you, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Appreciate the call.
Sure. Okay.
We have a break, everybody. We have a break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Sir, Doctor.
So, does everything that we talked about make sense?
Absolutely, it does. Because I've seen it work in my life. I've been a client of yours now for several years. I've lost track of how many years. And I've had considerable improvements and in my life, and so I know it works. Of course it does. It makes sense.
And so, like Rick was talking about, we address the entire person. And like Clyde was talking about with the Parkinson's, and I was talking about with the reflexes and the neurotransmitters. What do you think you're working on when you do these reflexes and neurotransmitters? You're working on the brain. And the brain is a part of what the mind utilizes, as well as the gut and the nervous system, to function a human life. And so I'm just going to end this show with a quote here, and then we'll just go from there. But it's called Commitment to Self. I promise to trust myself enough to be willing to hear and speak the truth and teach myself lovingly, gently, and with respect. I will do this in my thoughts, words, and actions all the time. In every interaction, I will look for and acknowledge the highest and best in myself as I surrender to love, my true nature. Staying connected to my source, love, and nurturing that relationship is more important than any issue. If anything unlike love comes up, I will go to that quiet place within where love dwells within me. I'll listen to, welcome, and accept love's guidance. I will be teachable as I ask to be included towards healing and show how to keep communication open in all relationships. I'm willing to be responsible for my own realities and learn to keep love conscious, active, and present as I heal and celebrate life. Now, that is an aspect of taking responsibility for yourself. And who treats you? You. And the first things first, treating yourself with that level of respect. So it doesn't matter what you have, whether you believe it was given to you, brought upon you, or you know that you have responsibility of that action, what to do about it. And taking responsibility and caring for yourself at the level that you want to get better at. And it doesn't matter what it is, that you can do it. You have the ability. You were born with that birthright. Every single one person.
That's right. That's right. God doesn't play favors. We all were born with that ability, Doctor.
Amen.
Well, thank you, Doctor. I don't want to be cut off by the music. I know I and many of my listeners look forward to your visits with us twice a week, and we look forward to having you back next Tuesday morning.
You got it. Talk to you then.
Thank you, Doctor.